Disclaimer. The comments made in this video are solely for entertainment purposes and are not intended to harm or offend anyone. In today's world, woke culture is infiltrating every aspect of society. And now it's coming for our kids. From classrooms to entertainment, these toxic ideologies are pushing confusing, harmful agendas onto the youngest generation. In this video, we'll expose how woke culture is damaging our children, robbing them of their innocence, and reshaping their futures in dangerous ways. In this video, Chloe Cole shares her personal experience with gender-affirming treatments and the tough consequences she faced.
Courage, Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Cole, you're next, and you can begin.
Good morning. My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a detransitioner. Another way to put that would be, I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm. I speak to you today as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals in the history of the United States of America. I speak to you in the hope that you will have the courage to bring the scandal to an end and ensure that other vulnerable teenagers, children, and young adults don't go through what I went through. At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. I was well into an early puberty, and I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body. I was intimidated by male attention, and when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual attention to go away, that I looked up to my brothers a little bit more than I did to my sisters. I came out as transgender in a letter I sent on the dining room table. My parents were immediately concerned. They felt like they needed to get outside help from medical professionals, but this proved to be a mistake. It immediately set our entire family down a path of ideologically motivated deceit and coercion. The gender specialist I was taken to see told my parents that I needed to be put on puberty-blocking drugs right away. They asked my parents a simple question: would you rather have a dead daughter or a living transgender son? The choice was enough for my parents to let their guard down, and in retrospect, I can't blame them. This was the moment that we all became victims of so-called gender-affirming care. I was fast-tracked onto puberty blockers and then testosterone. The resulting menopausal-like hot flashes made focusing on school impossible. I still get joint pains and weird pops in my back, but they were far worse when I was on the blockers. A month later, when I was 13, I had my first testosterone injection. It's caused permanent changes to my body. My voice will forever be deeper, my jawline sharper, my nose longer, my bone structure permanently masculinized, my Adam's apple more prominent, my fertility unknown. I look in the mirror sometimes and I feel like a monster. I had a double mastectomy at 15. They tested my amputated breast for cancer. And I was cancer-free, of course. I was perfectly healthy. There was nothing wrong with my still developing body or my breasts. Other than that, as an insecure teenage girl, I felt awkward about it. After my breasts were taken away from me, the tissue was incinerated. Before I was able to legally drive, I had a huge part of my future womanhood taken from me. I will never be able to breastfeed. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times. I still struggle to this day with sexual dysfunction. And I have massive scars across my chest. And the skin grafts that they took of my nipples are weeping fluid today. And they were grafted into a more masculine positioning, they said. After surgery, my grades in school plummeted. Everything that I went through did nothing to address my underlying mental health issues that I had. And my doctors, with their theories on gender, thought that all my problems would go away as soon as I was surgically transformed into something that vaguely resembled a boy. Their theories were wrong. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be a female. When my specialist first told my parents that they could have a dead daughter or a live transgender son, I wasn't suicidal. I was a happy child who struggled because she was different. However, at 16, after my surgery, I did become suicidal. I'm doing better now, but my parents almost got the dead daughter promised to them by my doctors. My doctors had almost created the very nightmare they said they were trying to avoid.
This is not a medical journey. It's a catastrophe. The doctors peddled a lie, pushing an irreversible, life-altering agenda on a vulnerable child. Chloe was told there was no choice but to chemically and surgically alter her body or else face death. This is a tragedy, not a solution. These professionals did not just make a mistake, they engaged in ideological malpractice, guided by a toxic and dangerous ideology masquerading as healthcare.
So what message do I want to bring to American teenagers and their families? I didn't need to be lied to. I needed compassion. I needed to be loved. I needed to be given therapy to help me work through my issues, not affirm to my delusion that by transforming into a boy, it would solve all my problems. We need to stop telling 12-year-olds that they were born wrong, that they are right to reject their own bodies and feel uncomfortable with their own skin. We need to stop telling children that puberty is an option, that they can choose what kind of puberty they will go through, just so they can choose what clothes to wear or what music to listen to. Puberty is a rite of passage to adulthood, not a disease to be mitigated. Today, I should be at home with my family celebrating my 19th birthday, and instead I'm making a desperate plea to my elected representatives. Learn the lessons from other medical scandals like the opioid crisis, to recognize that doctors are human too, and sometimes they are wrong. My childhood was ruined along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop. You alone can stop it. Enough children have already been victimized by this barbaric pseudoscience. Please let me be your final warning. Thank you.
What we're witnessing here is not just an individual tragedy. This is systemic abuse. Medical professionals are systematically mutilating children's bodies under the guise of care. Chloe is not just speaking for herself, she's speaking for the countless others who have suffered in silence. The entire field of gender-affirming care is a ticking time bomb, and politicians who continue to turn a blind eye are complicit in this destruction. The clock is ticking, and these children are paying the price. But that's just the beginning. Let's look at the emotional testimony of Aurora Regino, the mother who filed a lawsuit against Chico Unified for transitioning her daughter without her knowledge. This mother bravely shares her story to shed light on what is happening in schools today.
Aurora Regino. Just to acknowledge that you had signed up for the previous item, but I moved all of those to under this item.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Hi, for those that don't know me, my name is Aurora Regino, and I am the mother that filed the lawsuit in federal court against Chico Unified for transitioning my daughter without my knowledge. I'm here today to tell my story so parents and the public know what is going on in our schools. Last year, my 11-year-old daughter was in elementary school here at Chico Unified, and her elementary school transitioned her from female to male behind my back. Shortly before this happened, my father had recently passed away, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My daughter was distressed and began questioning her sexuality, so she decided to reach out to a wellness counselor at her elementary school.
How does this even happen in the first place? The school is supposed to be a place of education, not a breeding ground for secretive, reckless experimentation on young minds. What kind of system encourages a child to keep such life-altering decisions hidden from their own parents? This is not about support, it's about manipulation.
The day my daughter shared with her guidance counselor that she felt like a boy, the counselor immediately affirmed this new identity. From then on, the counselor continued to have one-on-one meetings with my daughter without my knowledge. During one of those one-on-one meetings, my daughter told the counselor she wanted to tell me about her new identity. The counselor ignored her requests and did nothing to support her in letting me know what was going on at school. Throughout her transition, my daughter changed very quickly, was bullied, and as a result was very unhappy. And because her school kept this transition a secret from me, she was on her own. I'm a busy working mother just like the rest of you. Before this happened to our family, I would have not believed this was going on in our schools, especially at the elementary level. I want everyone to know I want everyone to understand that I want a space for our LGBTQ and trans community members to feel safe and supported. But the policy currently in place at Chico Unified has been damaging to our family. And I am not up here talking about what could happen if you continue this policy. I am up here telling you what did happen to our family. This was a time when she needed me the most, and you kept it a secret from me. I understand that you are trying to find ways to create a safe environment for all children within our district, but keeping secrets from parents is not the way to do it. Treating every parent as a potential threat to their kids is wrong. I know it's easy to make up a narrative when it comes to my case. I know it's easy for people to judge and say my daughter must have not felt safe or supported, and that's the reason for her telling her counselor. But regardless of what people say, I love my children, and there isn't anything they could ever do to change that. It wouldn't have mattered to me whether my daughter continued to identify as a male. I would love her the same. It's a slippery slope to allow any adult in our schools to keep secrets from parents for any reason. The actions the school board district took to immediately exclude me from supporting my daughter was very damaging to her and our family. She was very young and didn't understand what being transgender really meant or the obstacles she would face going through a transition. The school transitioned her and left her to figure it out on her own. It seems to me the district is getting it wrong on both sides. You don't know how to handle these very serious and sensitive situations because once you transitioned her, you left her to handle it all by herself, the bullying and the staff even outing her. Thank you.
This is pure negligence. The counselor didn't just act in secret, they actively disregarded a mother's right to be involved in her child's life. They failed to provide the support her daughter needed and exposed her to bullying and emotional distress. All of this is happening because the school thought it knew better than a mother. This is outrageous. The story doesn't end here, as Margaret Hamilton steps up to speak for the younger generation, calling attention to the damaging nature of a book found in elementary schools.
Our next speaker is Margaret Hamilton, followed by John Amanchukwu.
Hello, I'm here to speak on behalf of our younger children and their academics. This book, It Feels Good to Be Yourself, which has an oxymoronic title based on its content, can be found in 26 elementary schools. It is geared towards K-2, and as Macmillan Publisher says, it basically is geared toward ages 4 through 8.
This book presents confusing ideas about gender to young children, and Hamilton is ready to expose it for what it truly is. This book is nothing more than indoctrination wrapped in a shiny package. At an age when kids should be learning basic skills like reading and math, they are instead being bombarded with a radical agenda that confuses the very concept of gender. What happened to just letting kids be kids?
It introduces 4 different characters with different gender identities. It makes it seem as if gender is an imaginary concept that can be changed on a whim, when the truth is gender is factual. You're either a boy or a girl. And gender identity, what you see yourself as, that's imaginary. Well, let me read you a couple of things. First character is Ruthie. She's a transgender girl. That means when she was born, everyone thought she was a boy until she grew a little older, old enough to tell everyone that she's actually a girl. Then there's her brother Xavier. Xavier is a cisgender boy. Which 4 through 8-year-old knows what cisgender means? Can they spell cisgender? That means when Xavier was born, everyone thought he was a boy, and as he grew older, it turned out everyone was right. He was a boy.
How are we expecting 4-year-olds to even comprehend these terms? This isn't just confusing. It's a deliberate effort to blur reality. Teaching children that gender is fluid at this age is a grotesque overreach. It's one thing to educate kids on diversity, but this is pushing an ideology that isn't appropriate for their developmental stage.
Then there's Alex, the friend. Alex is both a boy and a girl. Then there's JJ. JJ is neither a boy nor a girl. Ever since JJ was very little, they never felt exactly like a boy or girl. They just felt like themselves. This is JJ's gender identity. Some kids feel like girls. Some kids feel like boys. Some kids feel like a little bit of both. Part boy, part girl. Reminds me of that old commercial. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Is that okay? Some kids don't feel exactly like a boy or a girl. They feel like neither. Some kids feel that their gender identity isn't always the same. It's often changing. So now are we endorsing schizophrenia? What are we doing? Whether you feel like a boy or a girl or neither, if you describe yourself another way, that is your gender identity. When does this foolishness stop? When you shroud lunacy, insanity, or fallacy in colorful words and pictures to be read to young children, you have created an unsafe environment, since we're talking about safe environment, right? Where does it stop? At this tender age, our children should be learning their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Who authorized this? Who told you that you are God? Who gave you permission to tell our children who they are and who they're supposed to be? This is intentional and evil at its core. Get back to what you were elected to do and formally educate our children, not indoctrinate them with left-wing ideologies under the guise of providing a safe and welcoming space. Hear us clearly. We will not surrender our children. Leave our children alone.
What is next? Are we going to teach children that their thoughts can change reality itself? This is bordering on child abuse. It is irresponsible to allow such concepts to be presented to children without parental consent, especially when these teachings have no basis in biological reality. You made it to the end of the video. If you want to help us get society back on track, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. See you next time.